in perfect order. Yunara, I'm happy to see making it onto that blue side ban. Let's just, on that red side ban, let's just never see this champion.
All right. No Yunara. 100% ban rate. Varus ban? Are we going to get that?
Pantheon?
Because if you, yeah, it's Varus, Pantheon, Rumble, Trundle. So all three of those champions we just said, Roodood, are going to make it through here for B1.
Please, you take the virus. No, you take the virus. Well, it's Weibo that are going to get their hands on it, and we talked about the idea of Rumble could come through. Then the Pantheon can go into the jungle as well, set up really nicely. You may well also see a little bit of a Jarvan. I know that teams are quite happy to give Varus over and maybe play something like a Wukong as well if they want to try and bully out that Varus through the early and at the mid game. WE though, saying the top lane isn't their first priority. Maybe Rumble just completely off the face of the earth as the Pantheon does get locked in, but it's alongside the Talia.
What a fun litmus test we have, especially knowing what we talked about for NIP in our last series, that they very well so could match up against WE later on. That WE in their first game go with the same R1, R2 that we just saw convincingly executed. Yeah. So now Monki and Karis, can you do the same against an opponent that very well could be challenging you in an elimination format?
And it is those WE solo laners who have been that little bit of inconsistent for me, as we get to see Breathe get his hands on Ambessa. This is a champion that actually relatively frequently is banned away from him, but is now given over to that star top laner that we'd highlighted for Weibo. We'll see what it is that Cube looks to go into it. Obviously, the Scion banned away from Cube as he will not get his hands on it. And I don't know that I like this pick if they want to try and lock that in. Ambessa, one of those few champs with several dashes, so the Dark Procession not particularly useful. But with double immobile backline, maybe we're thinking for a little bit later on.
Maybe we're thinking, let's spread the map up and play our globals best. We have a side lane threat on one side, and we have Karis and Monki that can spring a trap whenever. And I'm glad you highlighted that Varus and Orianna are particularly susceptible to this deadly combination. Moving into second phase bans, though, I do like to just see good, you know, death ball pairings banned away for WE. Nocturne's the first one. Jarvan, I think, isn't enough of a ban to hear. Maybe, yeah, Xin Zhao, two staple bans that pair up really well with the Orianna.
And I do want to quickly highlight as well that this does pinch that jungle pool that little bit further, as we've already highlighted, but that we're actually looking at AD carries that WE want to take here. Pretty much everything is still open for Taeyoon. We've seen him default to things like Corki to Ezreal as well, but the Varus taken away from him is a pretty big boost for Weibo Gaming. So we'll be curious to see what it is that they look to match with down on that bot side. And then importantly, looking at how well these compositions are functioning already for WE. They have got the ability to play these side lanes very well, so something with that wave clear, with the ability to stay safe, is actually going to be pretty important.
Taeyoon hovering, two interesting ADs. His Corki is one of his most played. He locks that one in. The Jhin, I would wager that the most consistent Jhin gameplay in the LPL, really across the whole year, I think, has actually come from Light. So that would have been funny to see him lock the Jhin into Light on this Varus. But he's going to go with the Corki. Does have that dash available, but does bring a ton of that mid-game power spiking you're looking for. Works well with the Pantheon and the Talia in that aspect. As we're going to see a rare B5 Wukong. It's very rare to see this champion slip this far down into a draft, but you got to be happy for Tian to get it.
Yeah, and I mean, they prioritized taking away the Nocturne Orianna combo, which was, you know, one of the bans that they took in that second phase, but it does leave open this Wukong. And interestingly as well, maybe I'm just completely over-prioritizing Vi, but another time where she just gets slipped completely through the draft. Question now, though, for WE, what do they want to round out into that support role? Again, I think that safety in the mid lane is what we're looking for from them, and the Alistair kind of gives that to them as well. WE want to play on these side lanes. They want to use the Yorick, use the Talia and Pantheon combo to probably go and sustain Cube in that side. And if you're breathing this game, you really need to be careful. If you're Xiaohu in this game trying to play side lane, you really need to be careful. One of the hallmark problems that we see from Weibo is that they get picked on sides, and usually it's Xiaohu that they get picked late game. That sometimes can come from Tian as well. So Weibo got a bit of a difficult time ahead of them to make sure that they don't get picked up against this quintessential pick composition.
They also have to make it a priority, though, to stay aggressive with their comp. Because what we saw from LGD up against a very similar mid-jungle, similar kind of style, was just playing pretty slow and a bit disrespectful on those sides like you alluded to. But the main thing I want to see why Weibo need to be proactive. One, you drafted your own, circles of death wombo combo with the Wukong and the Orianna, right? But two, if you can get ahead, if you can cut down, acceptable spaces of the map for this York to play on, Cube becomes incredibly useless.
Yeah, that's pretty true. And if you are just able to, very simply keep the Yorick at bay, hey man, this guy does very little things. I mean, there was a reason that he was kept out of pro play for almost a decade, it feels like. And the fact that he's able to re-emerge with the rework that, didn't really bring him back into the fold all that much in the first place. There's a reason that it was a weak champ for a while. Some buffs have given him some good laning phase and maybe the ability to split push, but whether or not WE can execute on that, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, now we are going to get the home crowd at Tian supporting their team. Team W are going to need it as they look to find a second series win.
敌军还有30秒到达战场，碾碎。
The away fans, as we would call them in Weibo. Yeah. Maybe I might give a slight edge to them there, Rude, on those Jaios, but we do get diffed by the stadium mics. We don't know where they're placed and where the fans are closest to those said mics.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important as well to realize that for WE that these games are incredibly important if they want to really stand a chance at getting themselves into a series up against a potentially weaker group Nirvana team. They probably need to come away with a win here. This is one of their more realistically winnable series that they're going to have. And that WE, again, we highlighted that they are kind of game 3 merchants. They will look good for one game, but it's then about how well can they close out a series, and so far only once this year have they been able to, or once this split I should say.
We see both junglers again matching each other through their clears, as Weibo and Crisp should have level 2 suited somewhat safely here, but with Pantheon's advantage over the Wukong, we talk about level 6 priority. Whenever we see, Tian show up on the map, I would hope, and knowing Monki's aggressiveness, that he is going to try and threaten this Wukong. First spot to likely do that could maybe be this topside crab they're both going to pass. Good headbutt.
Yeah, nice little interrupt there from Vampire onto Crisp. But with this push coming through down on that bot side, I want to highlight quickly that this poke virus coming in for light. It does mean that the consistent DPS for Weibo's composition is going to be a little bit shaky as we move later on into this game, and that we are going to be relying more heavily on that poke and then into sort of one-shot combos as Monki's already looking mid lane.
There we go. Yep. Gonna flash with the stun. Yes, he will. Xiaohu gonna flash back after, but there should be enough damage with long-range spear. Maybe one more Q from Karis. Ooh. Yes, he gets it. The Spring Tiger is put to slumber.
And Karis there didn't even use or have seismic shove, it felt like, but they were able to find the damage regardless. Xiaohu not flashing away from the initial stun from Monki costs him his life, and first blood in the mid lane. The early aggression of this Pantheon coming through.
This is what is most inspiring about WE, is Monki's proactivity early on as one of those aggressive junglers. Tian is going to try and catch him on his red buff, but Karis reads it really well. Going buddy-buddy with Monki, and now he's not even really going to lose it. He can't. Oh, he could still lose his red buff.
There's a ward on the entrance to the jungle, so they knew that Tian was going in there. They know that he's not actually left yet either. So Monki kind of playing this game of where is the Wukong? He's able to smite away his drugs, but he's taking a big chunk of damage here, and probably going to have to give up this red buff. He went for that gank in the mid lane, and it's costing him dearly right now, as Karis would like to be able to come and help him, but he doesn't really have the time in the lane to be able to do that.
No, he doesn't. And now Cube needs to be mindful of where Tian is also positioned now that we've gone pretty vertical on these jungle paths. Crab is going to be given over to Tian, but Cube does need to be careful with how this wave pushes up against him. Tian, though, not really ever looking his way towards topside. Again, Wukong's gank threat is really not online until the cycle comes across.
Yeah, he does nothing pre-level 6 is you know, the TLDR. He really struggles to find those aggressive plays and to be able to conceive of getting a gank off before that cyclone is available. Cull taken here by Light as well. Worth highlighting that he's working his way towards that 2-item power spike, but he's going to take a really long time to get there. He's taking a longer pit stop through the tier, through the Cull as well. So sitting back, relaxing almost in this early game.
Sitting back, relaxing bot side, because Weibo are looking to fight on those ultimate timers. We already talked about it for Tian, but it's also very apparent for Xiaohu, who is a bit behind the curve after that first death. He still is pretty competitive in CS by this point, but is still a flashless Orianna as well that Monki can look to try and punish. As Xiaohu is going to reset in this brush, and WE looking to spring the trap or at least stop his reset comfortably.
Yeah, and I like the heads-up play there from Karis, kind of expecting Xiaohu to have recalled there. Actually, if Monki hadn't have shown and Xiaohu hadn't have interrupted his recall, there's a world that flick lands and we're actually able to find a little bit more damage onto Xiaohu, but instead these mid laners are going to take those traders of recalls. Remember that the Orianna was picked into the Talia. This is typically a winning matchup for the Orianna. We see a lot of mid laners opt into this and normally are able to establish priority in that 1 versus 1 matchup. But it's Karis, though, with that first blood, who's been able to eke out just the small advantage of that 300 gold with that there. But again, these two teams doing very minimal to accelerate the pace of this game. It's just sat back, farming approach, with the goals being pretty much dead even across the board. And with that, you have to think about, well, the scaling aspect of both of these two teams. Not necessarily going favouring one way or the other, with it all just being poke more than anything. It's coming down to those executions around those T-fights.
Here we go, is Vampire flash after Light. Good interrupt comes cost from Chris, so Vampire can't get onto Light. So Monkey's gonna josh on Tian, the lowest member of this stage so far, to the piercing arrow. Knocks Monkey very low. His E drops out as well. Taeyoon is the most healthy member. But does he want to Valkyrie forward? Not with the cooldown up just yet, and everyone walks away a bit more bruised and battered than they came in.
Yeah, and Light there with a miss actually on his hail of arrows means he doesn't reset the blight stacks, doesn't get to be able to charge up another piercing arrow, which could have taken down Monkey, could have taken down Vampire. If that E lands onto Monkey, he can actually probably take down 1 or 2 members with that and get a real advantage over to Weibo's side, but rare miss costs him dearly, and now he's forced under the turret with 40% HP and gives now the window for WE to decide how they get those resets.
First Dragon is calling the name towards me here. The fact that still kind of just chilling out there, right? We talk so much about how the Grubs timers have changed a lot to try and make sure we don't have the classic Drake for Grubs trade, but that could be a reality here. We've seen this, though, from game 1. It's the Grand Starfall ult to secure a mid laner's death with no flash up. It just comes up now for Xiaohu, but doesn't matter. He's got a great screen.
Yeah, and now that's another kill into Karis, this Talia pick. Again, we talked about how many high priority picks had been let through this draft, that actually this was, I think, Red side coming away with the advantage in those prio picks, with the Varus being traded for, you know, the Talia and the Pantheon. Actually give WE a little bit of an edge in terms of what they've been able to come out on top of. Vampire, though, on a pink board here, does get spotted.
Karis has Weaver Evolved. He wants to kind of stop the advancing Weibo, but Tian is going to flash forward to get the Cyclone onto Monkey. Chains of Corruption going to be cleansed by Taeyoon. Chris cannot get a Grand Entrance knockup, but Vampire does not have Unbreakable Will, so this is a much squishier Alistair that will fall. Light picks up that trade. WE bite off a bit more than they could chew, going for the Grubs right after that pick play.
They do find 2 of the Grubs. They do lose out on their support, so overall they'll not be, you know, kicking themselves that they've lost that, but they'll be a little bit disappointed that they weren't able to find a fight afterwards. I think in this game, Vampire's job is to really protect Taeyoon, to protect Karis, and him acting as that front line. It can work, but also needs to be able to fluctuate between protection and that engage. And when he's left isolated solo almost in that front line, he doesn't really have the ability, especially at level 5, to create space for his squad, and ultimately pays the price for it Taeyoon there doing very well in that farm, matching up quite nicely with Light, and both of these two AD carries are going to get to that Muramana spike at a pretty good time.
Speaking on spikes, though, Aiden coming out here for Cube as you see his ghouls get him a plate from 90 feet where he's recalling from. How much different does this game look now from WE for you, Roodood, that Cube has had a pretty undisturbed time through the early phase and now gets to a much more potent spot with this Yorick?
I think it's just all about how well Weibo control those sides. As long as they've always got somebody matching the Yorick, it really doesn't matter that he's had a pretty quiet laning phase, because we move into the late stages of this game and he's going to be a Yorick in a team fight where he's going to walk around really slowly and probably get kited. So it really does matter to me how well WE are able to leverage those side lanes and how well they can draw pressure across the map to make Breathe move.
Movement right now is towards the Drake pit as a Monki is going to secure that one remarkably late. It is rare that you see Grubs go down before first. So that Drake is picked up for now. As we see the lane assignments relax back into where they were early, but I expect bottom lanes to swing over towards the mid lane sooner rather than later.
And with how slow-paced this early game has been, it's a good time for us to get a check-in as to where the gold lies, as well as Karis got a couple of those kills in the early stages of the game, so we are really looking at, once again, a mid lane over prior.
Rinse and repeat, but Xiaohu was better positioned this time and does not pay with his flash. We do see an engage, a step back on by a flick onto Karis. Wasn't expecting Vampire in that bush, was Tian, and the shockwave hits absolutely nobody. Tian goes down, the jump is on to Xiaohu as well, but W don't need to push too much further for another kill. They've already got feats of warfare, and they've already shocked Tian on his first Cyclone.
Yeah, and that's just not what you were looking for, really, for Weibo, and it's once again Tian who's frequently been one of the bright spots of this Weibo Gaming roster, but actually really in a bit of a pickle in that mid lane, ends up falling, as now Weibo are looking to make a play on this top side. Crispin Xiaohu looking to walk up top here, but again, if they can't cut this wave, it's going to be incredibly obvious what's looking to happen. Xiaohu with no ultimate, yeah, quite rightly, just goes back to mid lane. There's nothing really doing on this top side, as Cube doing quite well at just absorbing a little bit of pressure.
Good look back here. Tian, I mean, he actually knows Vampire's here. This just feels like a really errand engage from Tian.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely misguided. The Pantheon is always going to be able to get there in time to turn this one back around, and you're engaging onto an Alistair of all champions. He's got that point and click CC, like he doesn't even have to auto-attack you, he just snaps you with the Q, and there you go. Attempted fight onto this top side, Monki not quite able to get in time to find that stun. So there's a lot of people to walk away, but Weibo with a bit of a shaky early game, which honestly, up against that in their top esports series, was where they looked the strongest.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of worries about Xiaohu's early games, and now transitioning to mid-game, public execution, gonna find Jack squat, and it's Breathe that gets dove, and Monki picking up another kill, and on top of that, Yorick gets more plates. This game is trending more and more towards the game style that WE want, minute by minute.
100% kill participation so far for Monki has been instrumental in finding the early game lead for WE, and then we compare that to Tian, who so far has been really absent. Second Cyclone of the game, he gets killed on. The first one, yes, they were able to stop that Void Grub take of going 3 for nothing, but still got a small amount of Void Mites for WE, and now Light in this mid lane. You can see Vampire waiting with Flash in the brush, but not be able to find the angle onto him. The mid-jungle duo, once again for WE, this time round coming up trumps. Karis with 2 kills, Monki with 2 kills, and we need to keep looking to them to see if they can be consistent, if they can carry WE to a Game 1 win.
Well, Rude, that's interesting. Carry to a win, because that's certainly something you guys can all look to do. Hold on, actually, Tian might just be completely caught going for a grub here. Gets the Scuttle Crab Smite, and actually with a teleport turn, Tian's just gonna look to aggress with Xiaohu coming nearby. Cube, no flash anymore. Shockwave should hold him in place, they're not even gonna need it. Grand Entrance is gonna knock down Cube. Nice little 180 there from Weibo.
And TP up to that top side so they don't miss out on anything, so that Karis can't find anything in that mid lane, and it's just a steal away. As now maybe WE are looking to re-engage themselves in this bot side jungle, but there's still a shockwave available for Xiaohu. If they press too far forward, yeah, Weibo, they definitely can look to take a fight here.
And they'll cautiously walk themselves back on out here. A lot of really good play there from Weibo, utilizing their TPs something that I was kind of talking about earlier with how we've highlighted Monki's full kill participation. If you guys at home want to, play the Pantheon in the jungle, be super effective on the map everywhere, want to utilize Weaver's Walls really well from Karis, play Vampire's Alistair to the best protection that you can. There's one place you got to go to learn stuff like that. It's from the pros and our sponsor, ProDiff.gg. You want to learn from the best when it comes to the LTA, the ERLs, the NACL. Make sure to check out ProDiff.gg and use our code here to directly help the LPL English. LPL 10 saves you 10% if you want to learn how to play like the pros in your own solo queue games.
A very worthwhile investment and certainly something that people should be considering. And as we move into 20 seconds before this Drake spawns, we are dead even still here. Slayer, a small advantage in the mid jungle for WE, but look at those AD carries. Taeyoon here quietly getting very out-farmed as Light able to finish off that cull, go back to base, sell it. He's now sat with a serrated Dirk on top of the Youmu's, so he's feeling really confident about his power level currently in this game compared to a Trinity Force for Taeyoon, so he's not weak. There's a lot more power in the Varus and a lot more range, importantly, as well, to pack that punch around an objective if the teams look to skirmish.
We talked about it earlier, Roodood, with this Poke Varus, one of the strongest AD carries, maybe the strongest, on 2 items early on with those lethalities. So having the lead is one thing, but being ahead of the curve with your item allocation is another. Right now, W are allocating resources towards this Rift Herald that Weibo do not have the inside track on. Tian's late, but he still wants to fight with Breathe on the top side. They're once again just targeting Cube, getting all these ultimates on top of the York. The Shockwave is only going to find its mark on the Vampire, and Aaron Flash going to come out for Breathe as well. W have a chance to try and turn this fight behind Monki, but a piercing arrow nearly takes out Vampire. Noteworthy word there, nearly. The kill does come from Taeyoon, as Weibo actually walk out of that without the Herald and without a single kill.
Yeah, so just a quick 1-for-0 plus a Herald there for WE, a small advantage going their way, but it's by no means convincing, as it was a fight on a very, very close standing between these two teams. Importantly, Karis with a very good Weaver's Wall makes it so it's really tricky for Weibo to get all the way into this fight. As it's an engage, and again, it's a split. Look at this Weaver's Wall that comes across the back here, and Light, importantly, walks back, so he's on the back side of this. Can't make his way in, despite the fact that Tian here gets double cyclones. Xiaohu wasn't able to get into this fight, Light wasn't able to get into this fight, and actually WE played with their health bars very well. You could see Cube blinking low HP bar, Vampire the same story. Two frontliners doing a great job at using every ounce of their HP before going down.
Now here's what the win there does for WE as well. Again, the goal lead is marginal, but the map pressure that it brings, being able to play for now a Drake win con, up 2 Drakes, having the Rift Herald and 2 Grubs, it all just further compounds this full map threat that WE have. Cube, still, again, 1 Aaron death. He got a ton jumped onto him in that fight. You have Monki and Karis, who are still in prime position to get the 2 items and threaten side lanes constantly. WE can really just suffocate Weibo, never letting them get towards a 5v5 that their comp desperately looks to play for.
Yeah, I think importantly, if you can continue to use those sides, we'd be very happy with WE, and again, look to see them try and take this game. I want to re-highlight the expectations for these two teams, though, and what they're looking to accomplish. WE, I think, maybe unjustly 1-7. At their best, they've taken 2 games off of BLG already this split, but now Xiaohu aggressing onto Karis, didn't go for the shockwave without the team just too far. But they are a team that can and have already taken games from the best. They are not a team to take lightly, but Weibo need this win. They need to keep WE at arm's reach. They don't want to be in that bottom 2, and honestly, for Weibo, they're not far away from top 4. They're really not far away at all from being able to just grant themselves a playoff spot and not having to go through that playing stage.
That's a great point to make. We have top esports at BLG. It's kind of like Group Nirvana, right? It's top esports at BLG. A lot of teams catching up to them. Not a reality. But below that, it's really wide open. So who wants it more? Especially knowing this is the final split in the year of 2025, the final Rumble stage for all these teams, especially Weibo, a team that we have exhausted all adjectives, verbs, statements about. it's a Xiaohu team. It's a Tian team. Light here as well. Like, they need to be competing for Worlds. They don't need to be fighting with the scraps in Group Ascent.
Yeah, and I think importantly, WE have constantly upsold themselves, and with 4 spots in the LPL available to go to Worlds. I mean, if you look back at Split 2, WE, they did a very good job, and maybe they can look to repeat that here as Tian will use the cloak to get out from any danger. A whiff there from WE with those big global ultimates.
So now Weibo, how do you punish that going forward? The immediate way is that Xiaohu knocks down the top tier 1 turret. There's a way for W to answer it now. But Otacon is up in 5 seconds. The global threat on the map is down. With that buff up right now, I want to see Weibo be aggressive here.
I do want to call out some itemization choices, actually, that the Bloodletter's Curse here for Xiaohu is an item that I'm not a fan of when you're solo AP. Just, you know, you can probably go for something that's a little bit harder hitting with reducing the magic damage or magic resistance. Maybe it's to give Light those better Blight procs is worth mentioning, that lower MR on the magic damage from the Blight might be pretty useful, but Weibo here setting up their own little trap as Karis and Vampire now strolling.
Ooh, good flash from Karis, but Vampire can't say the same about him. He's pretty tanky, so how long can he thrive on? He will successfully get himself out, but it's flash off Karis and Vampire.
TP from Karis into the mid lane, so he
they're
gets
going
out.
mid.
Herald being used in the mid lane. They'll be able to take this turret. No Atacon start here from Weibo, so Weibo started for a play on that top side. They tried to make some impact, but ultimately got nothing.
Oh, but Karis is disjointed from Monki and Taeyoon without flash, but it's Vampire to save him with a double headbutt pulverize. Karis gets himself back out. Xiaohu has to play back as Tian dashes forward, but where's the rest of Weibo? They can't get anywhere close to their jungler, and now you've lost Tian with Otacon able to start up here for WE.
And no Chain of Corruption, no quickness as well. Shockwave coming up in about 15 seconds. The contest from Weibo, it's not easy, but I do think that it's possible. Teleport in from Xiaohu, so they want to try and stop this from going down. Public execution available as well. Poke from the Varus, still there, but look at the flank angle. Vampire, he's in the pit.
He's found out, but at least he's drawing Breeze's attention. One of those members that still has ultimate up. The Shockwave hits on it too. A clutch one from Xiaohu, but it doesn't get them Otacon. It only is able to find 1 kill back, but now Xiaohu has to flash away from Cube. Cube is holding both carries at bay, but it's Breeze getting work done on the front side of this fight. Monkey's the only one left up with Vampire trying to stun. Slow up this maniac of an Ambessa running wild in their back line, and he's bought enough time for Cube to get knocked down by Light, who steps up to clean up the rest of these kills until he gets an auto! No, Light!
WE come out on top. They got the Atacon as well. Monki is saved by a missed input. So rare to see, but this is what you get with Poke Varus. Your attack speed is so slow that these AD carries are so used to auto-attacking at the speed of light that he can't get it through in time. Xiaohu takes down the Corki without a thought. It's so easy for him, and Cube able to just zone away this backside fight of Light of Xiaohu, and he draws Light away, and you think that actually, because they're able to kite it out, the CC chain between the Alistar and the Pantheon, it's enough to take down the Ambessa before the Varus gets in here.
I don't want to watch.
Divine Sundered Sky brings him a little bit of health. He cancelled it.
It hurts.
He just needed to stand and hit.
And the worst part, Rude. I don't know if it was a 700 gold shutdown, but it was at least, I don't know if it was a 1,000 gold shutdown at the point, but it was at least a shutdown too. Oh, that is, it can happen to anyone, okay? Here's the takeaway. It happens to way too many of you in your solo queue games. It can happen to Light.
Yeah, and I mean, that might well be the difference here between ultimately the momentum setting up for Baron, setting up for Soul, setting up for Dragon. Like, if that fight goes slightly differently, Light, he's probably able to last hit Monki, might be able to chase down Vampire, find a couple of kills. He's probably sat here with the Mermana completed, and he's able to actually contest for mid-prior, really deal some damage with that poke, as now WE once again fishing.
That's just a dreamland. Right now, it's the public execution from Breathe on to Monki into the two-man shockwave. There's the CC layered beautifully from Weibo that they drafted for. Cube's teleport's too late. WE still looking like they want to fight though with a good flick back coming across from Karis. Breathe is going to have to get himself out with a couple of dashes. Taeyoon and Cube still want to step up despite the fact they're down 5 versus 3.
Yeah, the carry still with full HP does allow for WE to do a little bit of pushing off and may even try here to cut off Karis with the wall available. Maybe they're going to look for light as he's able to Youmu's out to safety, but they do get the tier 2 turret down, so a small win all the same for WE. So we look 3 minutes into the future, that's when that Dragon Soul is available, and we talked about the composition that Weibo have drafted for themselves. They're very poke geared, they're very centered on being able to do chip bits of damage before a skirmish and then nuke people with this Ambessa Orianna, Wukong Orianna combo. But with a Mountain Soul on top of WE, that becomes infinitely harder because those Varus Qs don't do anywhere near as much work. The Orianna Shockwave doesn't hit the same, nor does the Cyclone, and if Weibo can't contest all this, WE put themselves in a very good spot to be able to stall what the majority of Weibo's composition is looking to accomplish.
You talked about the burst of Weibo's comp in so many aspects. Yes, poke, but still burst poke here. From Light, what absolutely ruins that? Mountain Soul. The WE are in prime position to grab, like you called out, 2.5 minutes from now. It's Weibo that have to find that answer. But this is where, you know, the strategy of League of Legends really becomes plentiful. And I like to see WE indexing into spreading the map out. You've got, you know, a Karis with Flash and Weaver's Wall that can get out in a tough spot. You have this Yorick. Make it Weibo's problem to ever try and set up a 5v5, ever be able to set up around this Drake pit by playing the sides correctly.
Yeah, exactly. You can see that Xiaohu always has to go and respond, that Breathe really should always have to go and respond to Cube. And you just want to make it, as WE said, it was so difficult for Weibo to ever leave those side lanes. But look at them already, corralling themselves up toward that top side. I don't think that they've really got a good Baron burn composition with this poke Varus, so it is going to be tricky for them to think about trying to go for a trade. But I will highlight as well that WE, they don't have to take this next dragon in 90 seconds time. They can turn their attention up to the Baron. One dragon over to Weibo isn't going to change the course of this game. Take a look at those items once again. Have to highlight that Light now, despite that cancelled auto attack, he sat 3 items. Edge of Night, Muramana, Youmu's picked up as well. Incredibly strong on this Varus pick. And if Xiaohu can get to that Shadow Flame before the Dragon fight happens, it's a big 5 versus 5 Slayer. We can still very easily see Weibo come out on top.
To track those as we get closer and clear. We crest under the minute mark for that Mountain Drake. And with all the talking we've had about the options available for WE, looks like they clearly value this Mountain Soul more than a Baron setup, the way they have just made this bot side jungle from Weibo their own.
Valkyrie was enough to get Taeyoon out to safety. Now Prio for this mid-wave. Secured by Weibo, but again, Corki. Phosphorus Bomb clears the backline at this stage in the game. A couple of autos will be able to do the job onto that Siege minion. He's saving his mana though. Already half mana into this fight. Not going to have a time to go for a recall. Vision pretty much dark past their own jungle here for Weibo.
They're out a ward that was showing their path so far through the bottom side of this river. Cube takes a reset. I'd like to see if we can get a look at what item he grabbed. It's a big time to reset. I wonder if he's at 3 items, but he's not here to split push. He's here to team fight. WE, how hard do you want to index into 5v5ing Weibo with the gold so narrow and their comp much more powerful in this aspect? They're going to at least hold the dragon aggro.
Right now. And look
at Cube. Yep.
Yeah, they don't need to take this dragon again.
I love it.
They can fish for a steal if they want to, but if they want to give this up, this is a Yorick with a couple of grubs as well. They should just be able to take the entire inhibitor. The way they'll do it quickly, but TP's going in.
They want to fight, and Vampire's going in first. Eats up 2 ultimates on his own. Cube is going to zone, breathe off to the side. It's a steal from Monki. He gets the Mountain Soul. Now the fight breaks out. Monki has all 5 members on top of the Shockwave, brings him back from the flat. Monki's going to go down, but Cube's full HP. Taeyoon's remained untouched. Karis is not anywhere near low or down and out. It's Weibo that is down and heading for a 1-way ticket back back to the fountain, expedited by WE. They're going to surround, rout, and knock down Xiaohu and Light, who will not save this game. Ace to Team WE.
Triple kill for Cube, and the TP Yorick team fight happens to be a miracle send for WE. They take down 5 members, they only lose 1, with Monki stealing the dragon as well. They can turn their attention up to the Baron. They've got more than enough damage, more than enough HP, and WE have done more than enough to secure themselves a very good spot in game number 1.
What a play from one of the most uprising playmakers in the league, a future bright spot for years to come, it feels like, in the jungle. It's Monki again with the difference maker.
Q Smite, really difficult to outplay as the Wukong, but I want to keep your eyes on the Alistar this fight, as Vampire, look at him, sat on Taeyoon the whole time, and then just playing off on the sides. The second he knows that his Corki is fine, he's all about finding that next target. And the way that WE play with their health bars has been incredible this game. Karis goes gold, and you know that the Weibo players are just sat there thinking, oh, we absolutely can kill this guy, and then Flash comes through, he buys space, he buys time, just for Cube to swoop in around on the back angle. And it does feel bad for Light and Xiaohu, because they are playing those fights about as well as possible. They're doing all the damage that they can, but they're trying to do it through Mountain Soul. They're trying to do it when their front line isn't quite as strong as the enemies. And it does mean that they are, unfortunately, faltering.
They're trying to do it with no sustainable damage in their comp. They're so burst-oriented, and it plays right into a very, a Jock Show-led Cube by this point. Monki, who can throw up that unbreakable wall. He's pretty healthy in the health department as well. Vampire, the unbreakable will. If you are not blowing up Karis or Taeyoon by this point, Weibo doesn't have a shot in hell.
I wonder if that's a Sterax being worked towards by Cube, just so he can stay in the front lines for even longer. But a 2-level lead now on that side lane. He can just walk up with this Mountain Soul, throw 1 Q, take a third of the turret's HP, rinse and repeat with that Mountain Soul available.
Breathe is going. They're going after Taeyoon. Exhaust over top. He cleanses, flashes back, and Breathe can't find an entrance in to kill off the Corki. Shouldn't cost Weibo any of their lives just yet, but all their engaged tools are down, and that means the siege can resume at double power.
Xiaohu caught in the Dark Procession, takes 40% of his health there, doesn't trade the Shockwave, instead loses the mid lane inhibitor, loses the bot lane inhibitor as well, and WE with the Baron are merciless, deciding that this game number 1 is theirs, deciding that Weibo don't have enough to find any form of fight in this series. Game number 1 looks signed, sealed, and delivered here, Slayer. 2 minutes 40 on that Elder. With 2 inhibitors down and enough time to go out, set themselves up in top lane, maybe secure a 3rd inhibitor, maybe just take the game here and now and put themselves 1-0 up in this series that we said that for Weibo was a must-win.
And now it's to the point where coaching staff have got to start thinking about the second game, because while this game doesn't have a ton of scaling, you pointed out, it's kind of even between both sides. It's more so the burst countered so well for WE that it feels impossible to crawl back unless they start death brushing, hoping somebody walks into fog where they shouldn't be. Catching Taeyoon here, trying to push up this wave onto the tier 2 turret, but all of Weibo are spotted, ushering themselves up to cover tier 2. Karis goes golden to dodge out the public's usage. Great usage of that stasis, but he's still going to get engaged upon and blown up, but the redemption heal saves him. Somehow, Karis survives all of Weibo's onslaught. It's Vampire swinging on in with a 3-man headbutt, pulverize, and boy, are Weibo looking turned into mincemeat. Flashes galore, trying to run away from Vampire, who has sunk his teeth into Weibo. And now Monki and Cube here to clean up the scraps. It's only Breathe left up, but that could be not for long here as the Weaver's Wall comes down. Here is the cherry on top to a dominating win for Team WE.
The Bash Bros on the top side tear Weibo to shreds. And WE once again find a game and push us already to a game point, that series point, and maybe just their second series win.
And what a series win that would be, but what a game win here for Team WE. They drafted such a powerful, potent duo that's 2-0, by the way, on the day here, Roodood, the Talia Pantheon. is not just 2-0, Exodia in these games. It's two different sets of teams playing it, but the Pantheon to Leah combos we've seen today from both of our teams piloting it have been nothing short of awesome to watch.
Yeah, and I think that importantly as well, when you look at this from the perspective of WE, this is, you know, a team that they are looking up against who's just above them in the standings, and we talk about this for WE as well, that we're looking now at what those play-in implications are going to be. If WE can overtake Weibo, if WE can just put themselves, I think even 6th is a fine position to be in, and then sort of secures your safety into playoffs, even though you have to play that play-in game, that they are actually going to be probably chasing down Weibo with mercy, you know, without mercy even, with that hunger in their eyes to try and take it from them.
And they definitely showed it in that first game. Such an impressive execution on this comp. And that's really been the struggle for Team WE. An obvious statement to make here, but what I've been most impressed with has been Vampire and Monki teaming up to be able to like create plays in the early game. They always do that, but where they falter is to kind of get too far ahead of themselves for how they drafted, right? You're not always going to draft great 5v5 teams that can skirmish, team fight, in all aspects of the game. This game, you really saw Team W recognize that.
Yeah, and I think as well that you got to see in the back half of that final team fight as well, that they kind of knew that they got the gold, they knew that they got the advantage. Like Vampires just WQing into 4 people. I saw Taeyoon in the mix of 5 people for so long, and I'm just sat there thinking, how is the Corki even still beginning to be alive at this stage? Felt like it was in such an illegal spot, but they knew how to push the envelope really, and that they needed to push forward, and quite how they were going to do that as well was always very impressive.
Impressive indeed. Also great to see Cube, who we've put under a lot of scrutiny for his gameplay outside of Scion games, where his tasks are very easy. I think this was a pretty wondrous Yorick game. A perfect mix of threading on the sides constantly, playing your early game slow, but when you needed to bring the Yorick to team fights, he delivered.
Exactly, and you know, somehow I talked about the fact that the Yorick trying to take down an Ori and a Varus actually going to be quite easy, right? You've got the W to lock them in place, and if they don't have flash, they get caught out, and they're probably just going to die pretty much instantly. And we got to see that a couple of times where Cube's causing chaos in the backline. He has far too much HP, he's got Jack Show, he's got Grasp going, and the ghouls with the healing as well mean that it's all too simple for Cube to start running away with this. And you know, looking at that, you never really see top laners be the second most damaging in the game, but this time round it was WE that had that, and I do want to compare the damage numbers there because they were very, very similar. And it's not like one team has a super tank, the other one doesn't, but one of my points throughout this whole game was that WE were playing with their health bars a little bit better. Like, Weibo were doing largely the same amount of damage and taking them to largely the same amount of health, but unfortunately they were never able to push it over the line. They were never able to do that final 50, that final 100, and secure themselves the advantage.
And you're going to see it multiple times in some of these fights. It's a great thing to highlight, Roodood, is we see early on that classic WE aggression, playing for these crabs, looking for fight angles. They don't always go right. Sometimes, you know, Cube gets picked off, but where they shine is through Monki on his engages and Vampire able to space so well. The two superstars that have always been apparent for WWE.
And again, I mean, we're going to get to see it as well, probably in this highlight package, but this is a fight where the game is relatively even, and probably thinking that this doesn't really matter, but it's this team fight around the Atacon where the momentum really just changes, and it changes off the back of something so unfortunate that if it happens again, you start to think or be really, really worried. But I think that if this, again, cancelled auto attack from Light goes the other way, the entire cadence of the game could have been different. We could have seen something completely different in the way that this game ends up playing out. Like, if I think about how this fight plays out here, okay, he's able to take that kill, take that auto, he probably chases down Vampire and probably gets a second kill, probably starts to push out onto the map and find even more with it.
But that just, you know, is a fantasy to think back to here. And as we roll into these, you know, next couple of fights, obviously Monki gets the hero steal here, but you highlighted it in the replay, and we're going to see in the next couple fights, when Vampire knows his team is ahead and he can start playing a bit more aggressive, it's just so fun to watch, even on a peel-based champion like Alistar.
Yeah, exactly, and especially then, right, where you get to have that versatility. He just knows that Light's the only DPS. I'm just going to punt him away, and then I'll use him as a taxi onto Xiaohu. And Cube as well, sort of as fast as possible, coming in to protect his team, to protect Karis like he does here. I think Karis is maybe a little bit fortunate that that final auto attack doesn't kill him from Light, but again, that's the difference between having 2 Mountain Jakes and having 0.
And here we go, that last fight where Vampire...
Look at Taeyoon's positioning in this, by the way. In the middle of 3, still alive, still alive, still alive, still alive. There we go, finally goes down. There's no way that guy should have ever lived that long.
Yeah, if you're walking or trying to walk around in a Bessa and a Wukong,
you've done something wrong.
As an AD carry, you should be getting reported in a lot of your solo queue games. No, this isn't the reality we're in here for Taeyoon. This isn't the reality we're in for WE. Let's talk about player of the game here, though, Rude, because I think there are a lot of decent shouts again. Monki's, heroics get the Mountain Soul. He was pretty proactive with the Pantheon. We talked a little bit about Cube. Karis gets an early lead. Vampire's super impactful. Where's your head at?
I actually think it goes to the jungle. I think Monki picks this up for his early game impact. Yeah,
nice.
he was pretty much everywhere. I mean, 8% kill participation the first few fights. He had 100% up until then. So, really happy with how well Monki was able to accomplish his job on the Pantheon.
Monki, as we've seen so many times with Team WE, it's been stated by their own staff. This is Monki's team. We live and die by Monki, and of course, he is the leader in MVPs at 6 in that regard. Big shout out to him as he carries home the Pantheon, gives us Pantheon Talia 2-0 on the day. The question now becomes, can Team WE find themselves a 2-0 that they desperately need? They'll have to win another game, and that another game means another draft, and we'll see you guys on the other side of